for yourself, you also said public speaking was something that was very difficult for you. Did you attack that the same way you attacked the spotlight? Did you throw yourself into the deep end and go, this is what I'm going to have to do? And guess what? I'm going to do a big talk in front of a whole bunch of people for the first time.
So here's the thing, right? I've been performing since I was six, and that was because my mom's a musician, so I had no say in the matter. But my first speaking spotlight gig was actually in my early 20s. So it's very clear to me at that particular time as an introvert trying to come out of her shell. At that particular time at an event my mom was hosting, or my mom was running with somebody else, where the MC didn't show up. The MC didn't show up for the event, and everyone was freaking out and they didn't have a solution. And then here I am, 30 minutes in, watching all the chaos that's happening before the doors were opening. And I said, look, I'll MC, no problem. Let's stop worrying. I'll do it. And they're like, are you sure? Are you sure? Do you know what you're doing? It's like, I've got this. Like you don't want to freak people out. You don't want to show that you don't have that talent. You want to take that opportunity, right? So for me, it's like, okay, great. So for me, in my experience being in events or whatever seminar, right? I usually fall asleep. Sorry, lecturers out there, if you're watching this, but I usually fall asleep because it's usually presenters are quite boring, and they are so boring that it's not that I don't respect them, is that when there's no interaction and when my brain doesn't work, I unfortunately I fall asleep, and that's how it happens to me. So on the stage, he was like, okay, I'm putting myself as the audience. How can I interact to the audience in terms of making it fun and a pleasure for them to be there rather than a bore and I don't want to be there. So that was my approach to that. And surprisingly, the stage fright kind of left me. That was the first time. And I remember throwing out questions, getting them to interact, and getting them to move a little bit, and just being interactive rather than just standing and presenting. All right, the next person is blah, or welcome everybody, and thank you, kind of thing, like opening, closing, and blah. That's quite boring. So that's the way that I approach my first one, is how do I want the audience to remember me by? And that's the tip that I've always brought with me on every presentation or any um, uh, workshop that I run, right? Is regards to how do you want your audience to remember you? How do you want your clients to remember you? Is how I teach my clients themselves. How do you want your clients to remember you by, instead of, oh, I can't remember what I learned out of that event.
Yeah.
It was great, but I don't know what's happening.
That is awesome. I mean, to have that realization at such a young age and for your very first time is incredible. Because I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a lecture where the person is boring, is energyless, it's so hard to sit through, but you don't want to be rude. But in
Yeah,
retrospect, it's like, you know what? This is feedback for them. You need to up your game. And you knew that right at the get-go. And I would say that for somebody like yourself to do that at such a young age, that it really propelled your speaking career a lot faster because you realized that so soon. It's not about you, it's about the audience. It's about having them
absolutely.
remember you by, which is so important in the speaking world at least.
And actually, from that moment was when I had a couple of people, like, older people, right? Everybody that's older than you at that age is like, wow. So I had a lot of people that came up to me. They're like, oh, well, how long have you been doing this gig? I was like, oh, this is my first time. It's like, oh, really? You sound like really professional here. It's like, oh, great. So that kind of inspired me to do more presentation, and speaking in public, but not allowing fear to take over. And remember, fear comes in, a lot of shape and sizes. It could be you tensing up. It could be, you losing your voice or completely forgetting your speech, where you're dependent on a card. If you memorize the script and then because you're so fearful, you forget everything. It comes in many shape and form. And it's the same with meeting clients. Like, if the client is someone that you really respect, or the prospect is someone that you really respect, and then what happens if you freak out? So it's, as you said, it's developing that skill of improvisation, or is trying to improvise in that time, because we don't have the script of our days, and it's not like we wake up and say, okay, this is a script of what's going to happen today. It's, this is what we plan to have today, and then we live through our day where we improvise, right? So that's how I look at it. It's like not being afraid of improvisation, but it's taking that into account and just doing whatever challenge or whatever that comes your way and just letting it flow.